West Coast Podcast. I'm Shane, and as with me as always is my man Trey.
Yes, sir. We are back with another edition of the West Coast Podcast. Appreciate you guys for checking us out. Appreciate you for being in Shane's stream when he streams. He's been pretty consistent over that for the last couple days. Didn't get a chance to stream today, but he announced that he had some things going on today. So, however, he does plan to have a stream tomorrow for you guys. So make sure to tune into that. Also, make sure to subscribe to Shane for any updates as it relates to patches on both Madden and college football. He's going to be having some tip videos on that, teaching you guys how to get better in this game. And basically, I was just waiting for the notification to make sure that we are live, and we are in fact live. So, yeah, like I told you guys, we appreciate the support that we've been getting. We've been doing pretty well view wise over the last few days, and people coming into the streams and whatnot. So we appreciate you guys for that. So Shane, it's been a while. A lot's happened. We've had two Madden Belt winners so far. Shout out to John Beast and Fancy for winning the first two tournaments. But with all that being said, Shane, how have you been doing? How has the streams been going for you so far?
Appreciate it, Trey. Yeah, bro, I've been doing pretty well. I was on suckage bus, bro. No pause, suckage bus. I was struggling in Madden, and I got a playbook that, like, right now, I am killing the meta defense. Not going to say what playbook it is right now, but it's a playbook, man. And let's just say that I'm on an 11 game win streak right now. So I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, that was. I did watch the tournament, Trey. I was locked in on the tournament with John Beast and Fancy. Fancy surprised me, man. But like one of my guys said, they said they said you knock on the door long enough, you'll finally win the belt, and that can't be any truer than that. But I'm excited about this podcast. I think we've got a good podcast today. Trey, how have you been doing, bro?
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely got a good thing going, and that is a big thanks to you guys as well as Shane, and of course myself. But yeah, we're trying to break into the podcast game. The podcast game, Shane, is I think it's safe to say it's a pretty difficult community. It feels like everyone who's anyone has a podcast now. But I think the big reason is to just stay consistent, try to interact with the community once they get there, and I think we are both doing a pretty good job at that so far. So my first question to you, just to kind of set things off, Shane, I want to talk NFL football first. Just give me, what are some of your key takeaways so far in the NFL season? Not, specifically speaking about the Seahawks, but just the NFL in general. What have you seen so far?
Let me jump back to what you said about the podcast business is hard to get into, or like, I mean, not hard to get into, but everybody's doing it right now and all that. Bro, it is really really true. It's kind of like how I see YouTube right now. I wish when I first started YouTube that I went a little bit more in like I'm doing now, because it would have been like, there'd been way better avenues, there'd be less traffic, just like the podcast. But like, I agree with you, consistency is key, and I believe people will come. We also talk to people, we respond to people. We don't think we're better than anyone. So I really believe that gives us, a little bit of a boost. And I've actually been told by people that they play us back, bro, and listen to us when they're doing stuff. So remember that. We'll keep the grind on. NFL takeaways. Let me get into it. I have one major takeaway where I think people might disagree with me, but I'm being honest when I think about it. Maybe people will agree with me. Maybe you will, Trey. So I'll end with that. The Seahawks, I mean, they looked kind of rough offensively for about a half. Um, Defensively, they're really, really good. I mean, it's week one, right? It's week one. I am not really like too high, too low, right? Just like in anything. Like I'm not going to crown somebody a champion, and I'm not going to say somebody needs to get cut and released from whatever sport I'm watching. You know this. Everybody knows this as well. So it is week one. I was impressed with the Seahawks defense. I did see New England get a win. Obviously, your team plays my team this weekend in New England. Should be a fun game. Second takeaway is Pittsburgh versus who was it? Atlanta. I did pick Pittsburgh in my pool to win, so I wasn't shocked that they beat Atlanta in Atlanta. I am not sold on Justin Fields. Like he really did the minimum and they won. So like I think Russ still has a chance to win back the starting job. Like I know there's like some people are like, yeah, Russ is done. Just hand the keys to Justin Fields. I wasn't really. I mean, maybe he'll change my mind this week, but I think Russ has a great chance of being the starter when he's healthy again. Kansas City. They played against Baltimore and they're playing game two. Casey looked really good. Baltimore impressed me. They did. And what's up, Sports Network? Yeah, he's not playing versus the Broncos this week either. I still think that he'll win it back. Here is my major takeaway from the NFL so far this season. I don't know. I'm interested to hear your retort, Trey. I'm interested to hear the people listening what they think. I think Tua needs to retire. He has 4 concussions in I think 4 years. One of the doctors on Twitter who is verified a doctor, a legit doctor, he said that he might need to start thinking about his family and his health before the NFL. So what do you think of that, Trey? Like, what are your takeaways? Let me know.
Yeah, no question. And I was actually going to get into the whole Tua thing. So, you know what they say, Shane, great minds think alike. So props to you on that one. And and I don't want to sound, whatever, whatever. I mean, it's probably going to make me sound like a, whatever. But you had the Jets debacle, right? I mean, the 49ers kind of controlled that game. Aaron Rodgers didn't look so good, and now you have this whole Tua thing and all the drama that's been going on in Miami the last few weeks. And then Josh Allen, we usually get the Bills once. I mean, Tua, I am higher on Tua than I think most people are because he's like the only quarterback that we haven't beat. Like ever since Tua's got into the league, he swept us like every time. But when it comes to Buffalo, who usually wins the East, we've been able to at least get one. Even last year when we went 4-12. So yeah, the whole Tua thing is interesting, Shane. So obviously we're talking about a head injury. Tua has had some problems with concussions and what have you. So I'm actually going to flip it. So would you say the same thing if it was because there's been great athletes in the past that have been derailed not by concussions, but they're just not durable. There are a lot of injury prone guys. So I want to ask you, would you keep the same energy if it was not necessarily a head case injury, but more of like a durability? The guy is just injury prone. Do you think that you would say the same thing in that scenario?
That's a perfect question, Trey. My big thing is obviously brain. A brain injury is big time, right? I mean, that's more important than breaking a foot or tearing an ACL just by, life, right? Just by it's been proven you bounce around your brain too many times, you can start having some mental issues. You can start to, have depression, anxiety. You can start to be like anger issues and all that, all because of the brain rattling around. So for me, it is a lot. It is very different now. Like here, I'll give you one. Cam Chancellor. Everybody should know who that is. Maybe not anymore. Actually, I forgot. I mean, most people should. So I'll just say Cam Chancellor. He Per reports, he had to retire because of his neck. Another bad hit, and he might have been paralyzed per reports, at least back in the day. I am cool with him retiring as well, Trey. Now, if you have like a busted knee or a busted foot that keeps happening, keep playing as much as you want to, but like when your body's completely broken down, I mean, where you could be paralyzed, yeah, I wouldn't play any. I would tell him not to play anymore, anyways. Like I'm cool with Cam Chancellor retiring. Sport, you said the thing that sucks the most you forgot is Tua can't retire because he signed a massive contract. He signed a 4-year, $212 million contract through the Dolphins through 2028. To answer that, Sport, I don't know if he has an injury agreement. I did see that on Twitter. Somebody said that he had like a $98 million settlement contract or something like that if he did retire. I can't verify it. I just saw it floating out there by somebody saying that he could get $98 million with a settlement with his contract. The rest would be voided. But look, I'm just gonna be honest, Sport. Like I'd be more worried about living a long life than saving me, another 180, $200 million and risk where like I'm not the same person that you know. So for to answer you, Trey, I gave you like Cam Chancellor, right? I'm perfectly okay with the player retiring if they're going to be paralyzed or their brain is going to be effed up. If you have knee, leg, arm injuries and you want to keep pushing it, go ahead. Those aren't going to like completely change who you are. You might be walking with a limp, you might be, like have a club foot. You can still do certain things. You can't be doing things if you're paralyzed or if your brain's completely rocked. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's my answer to your question, Trey.
Yeah, and I would say I do agree with everything you said for the most part. I mean, ultimately, the choice is going to be up to Tua. A lot of people, I think, and there seems to be this whole stigma around the modern athlete about how they're soft, this and that. And I think a lot of people, even after the first concussion, would probably just throw in the towel after that. But Tua to me, and again, I'm kind of more privy to him because we play him twice a year, and I've seen kind of what this kid can do, and I actually think he's pretty tough. So whatever he decides to do, I'm gonna be supportive in it unless he's playing my Patriots. But Shane, knowing about that and seeing the Jets lose to San Francisco, I want to get your opinion on the AFC East. And do you think with everything that's been going on that the Patriots might actually have a chance to kind of surprise some people over in the AFC East? I don't know how much you got to see about the game against Cincinnati, but kind of what's your take on that?
You know, like I said, it's week 1, right? Um Patriots are 1-0. I just saw the Bills pound out Miami. They kind of locked up Tua even before Tua's concussion. I really think right now, Trey, Buffalo's the front runner right now, but I could see with Tua being out, they have a chance to compete with like the Jets because the Jets didn't impress me either. Like they look confused as all get out. Um, but like I said, it's week 1. It's early. Right now, I was more impressed with Buffalo last week than anyone else. But I think what is their record? See, I'm wrong right now. Actually, are they 1-1, Trey?
Who are you talking about? The
Buffalo.
Buffalo? No, Buffalo. I'm pretty sure Buffalo's 2-0, cause oh yeah, Kyler Murray was beating Buffalo, and then Buffalo came back and beat him actually. So yes, 1-1. So
Oh, okay, 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 yeah. Okay, so never mind. I was confused. I was really confused there for a second. Yeah, Bills are 2-0. Yeah, I mean I'm still see. I thought they were 2-0, and then I got confused. Then I thought they were 1-1. So that is my fault, you guys, on that. Buffalo's been the most impressive to me this week. I It might change, Trey, if the Patriots beat the Seahawks, but right now I have the Bills as number one, the Jets and New England tied at number two, and then Miami's just I think they're done without Tua. They don't look good at all to me. They kind of look like they were like had that magic last year, and I'm just not impressed with them like Miami at all. But right now I got Buffalo as the front runner. We'll see if it changes with New England if New England beats the Seahawks. I don't see them beating the Seahawks, and it's just not me being like a biased fan. I just think that the Seahawks are going to create some turnovers, and that's going to be the game. But we will see. But right now, I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC East.
Yeah, and then switching gears to the NFC West, we talked a little bit about, San Francisco and the Jets game. And also on Sunday night, you had a pretty good game between the Rams and the Lions. The Lions with Jared Goff were able to pull that one out. But what are your impressions on the Rams and the 49ers? And even Arizona. Arizona seemed to be looking pretty good. So do you think that your guys' division is going to be a tough one going forward?
I do. I really right now, like I said, right now, I have the 49ers being. I mean, the 49ers look legit, bro. Like as much as I don't want to be like, yeah, San Fran looks like the best team in the NFC West. The Seahawks to me are the second best. The Rams will be the third, and Arizona will be the worst. I think it'll be between the Seahawks and the 49ers this year. We'll see how it plays along, but like the Rams to me are going to be good, but not the top two. And I could be wrong, but I think it'll be the Seahawks and the 49ers for the NFC West right now. Sports said the Patriots defeated the Bengals, so they have a shot versus Hawks. Sure, they definitely have a chance. They're playing in New England at 10 a.m. for a West Coast team. I haven't seen Mike McDonald lead a West Coast team since he was with Baltimore. Obviously, before this, so we'll see how he does at 10 a.m. games. Because before Pete Carroll came along, the Seahawks were absolutely booty at 10 a.m. games on the West Coast. It was almost a guarantee loss. With Pete Carroll, the Seahawks were winning on the 10 a.m. games. It didn't matter. So this will be the first game for Mike McDonald and the Seahawks playing a 10 a.m. game. So we'll see how he does and the Seahawks do under his leadership. And of course, like I said, New England definitely has a shot. I mean, they might win. I think the Seahawks will win, but obviously they have a shot. New England has a shot. They beat Cincy. If it was in Seattle, I think Seattle wins by 10. I'm just being honest. So we'll see what happens, but that's to answer your question, Trey.
Yeah, no doubt. And also, talking about the Seahawks and Patriots, I want to know, Shane, do you think that this whole Seahawks and Patriots, it's starting to become a kind of a little bit of a rivalry at this point? Because you had the Super Bowl, which was an awesome game, went down to the wire. The last time we played was in 2020 when Cam Newton was our quarterback, and literally it almost went the same way in the Super Bowl. We got stopped at the 1 yard line. Seahawks won. And also, I don't know if you remember this, Shane, but Tom Brady against Russell Wilson a few years prior was a really good game, and I think you guys actually ended up winning that game. So, kind of what's your thoughts? Do you think that the Seahawks and Patriots have a little bit of a rivalry going at this point?
I do remember when the Seahawks beat New England. That was the start of Richard Sherman saying, "You mad, bro," to Tom Brady. So yeah, I do remember that. They've had some great games. They've had some really good games with each other. I don't know if it'll be a rivalry since like Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll are gone, and the dynasty of New England and the LOB is gone. But all I can say, Trey, is they've been some hell of good games, haven't they? Like honestly, they've been some really good games playing each other. I mean, I think I'm expecting another fantastic game at 10 a.m.
Oh, oh yeah, no doubt. I think it has all the makings for a good game for sure. So and I kind of want to get your opinion. I'll give you two players on the Patriots that maybe not you and a lot of other players kind of are sleeping on because New England doesn't really get a whole lot of national attention. But the two players, Shane, I'm going to forewarn you about is Ramondre Stevenson. He was the main reason why we won. He had like 180 yards through the ground, about 4.8 yards a carry, and probably the number one thing I got to warn you about is Christian Gonzalez. He was the last draft pick of Bill Belichick, and he has been an elite corner. He missed last year due to injury, but he is a guy that people are saying that he has the ability to lock up. So it's going to be interesting to see when he gets matched up on DK Metcalf. So Shane, who are some of your under the radar players from the Seahawks that you've been kind of looking at and saying, okay, they might not get a whole lot of recognition, but these guys looking pretty tough right now. Do you have any for me? Do you?
You know, I did hear about your running back. I don't. I did see that where he crushed it on the ground. So I do know now who he is. I didn't before. So that'll be interesting. So I will give you a guy that is brand new. He was a draft pick. I think he will be known plenty by the end of the year as Byron Murphy for the Seahawks on the defensive line. They did some highlight film on him after Week 1 versus Denver's win, and he was getting double teamed a lot. So he was allowing one on one for the rest of the linemen, and the other team had a chip block against the extra guy coming in. So look for Byron Murphy for one. And then, honestly, under the radar, look for Charbonnet, the backup running back, to have a pretty good game because Kenneth might not play. So look for Zach Charbonnet to have a decent game that's under the radar. So those are my two guys, Trey.
All right, and then one other guy I got a shot out is a wide receiver by the name of Demario Douglas. He's been kind of he was like a late round pick, and he was our leading receiver last year, and his nickname is Pop. So if he ends up having a big game or you see him, catch a pass, just know around New England we call him Pop Douglas around there. So like where are you guys at with Geno Smith? Do you think that he's kind of a bridge quarterback at this point? And like over in Seattle, because obviously the quarterback is a hot topic. I've had to suffer through that with Mac Jones and now Jacoby Brissett, the whole Drake May thing. So what are people in Seattle saying about Geno Smith so far? Are people liking him? Do they think that they should bench him? Where are they at with Geno Smith thus
So,
far?
so after Russell Wilson got traded, everybody loved Gino. I mean, loved him. I mean, they adored him. They were all in on him. He had a good first year. Last year he had a good first half of the season, struggled down the stretch in my opinion, and the vibes kind of turned like I would say about 20%, but for the most part, he's still getting majority love from people. Like probably about 75 to 80% of the people really love Gino. To me, is he good enough to win a playoff game? Yeah. Super Bowl? I'm not so sure on that unless the defense is elite. And if the defense is elite, I think most QBs can win a Super Bowl, right? Unless they're mistake prone, where Geno Smith hasn't been really mistake prone lately with Seattle at least. But I do think that they are going to start to. I mean, I do think it's a bridge with him because he's getting older, but I do think that most people like him here. I think that Coach Mike McDonald thinks they can win the Super Bowl with him, especially if he sets up a really good defense. Like, so it'll be interesting to see. And I know Ryan Grubb, the offensive coach, he came from UW. People love him. It was a rough start in the first half, but in the second half, I guess Ryan Grubb was super good at adjusting, and that's what they said he does at UW or did at UW. So I guess he's like the king of the second half adjustment. So I'll be interested to see as the year goes on. Like, is Gino back to his first year, or is he like kind of like last year where like he had a good half year and then a not so good second half of the year? I'm interested to see it, Trey.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. So, moving forward, I want to get your whole take on the two tournaments that we have here. And I want to first start off with just the overall presentation of things. The presentation of things, I think they're playing in Full Sail. I've heard somewhere, I could be wrong, but I've heard them mention Full Sail that they're playing in, which is cool. I was kind of taken back at the first tournament. You had 8 people and they were playing like 4 games simultaneously. I didn't really understand the point of that. I don't know if they were trying to rush out because they knew they had another tournament soon, so they were trying to, get things out of there. But and also Clef, he looks like the I tested you say, but he looks like the Salamanca twins from Breaking Bad, especially if he's just kind of standing there, post up and everything. So I thought that was pretty funny. But Shane, from the whole production aspect of things, where are you at? Do you think that it was produced well? I didn't see a whole lot of technical difficulties, so that part was good. But do you have any takeaways on that before we get into the games itself?
Um, the first tournament felt rushed, like you said. Like that was a fair assessment. Like I didn't like the multiple games being played, especially with that little of players, right? Like if it was 32 players, okay, the multiplayer screen like they did back in the day for clubs, okay, that's fine. But with 8 players, it did feel rushed. I wasn't that impressed with the tournament one, mainly because of that. But the tournament two was very smooth and it was ran very well. Like I think their production has been very good this year. So I was really impressed with tournament two. The first tournament, I did not like the multi like screens and all that.
Yeah. And then the second tournament, it kind of, fixed up and it was pretty normal. But yeah, it was kind of strange on that aspect. I would say, the first tournament, the thing that, because I was picking Young Kiv to win, Young Kiv ends up going up against John Beast, and there was a situation, Kiv was going down, he was going to score a touchdown, and leaving John Beast with, I don't know, 30 seconds left on the clock, and it was like a high scoring affair, like high 50s even. And, Kiv had a chance to go into the end zone, but he kind of got a little bit too cute, stopped the ball at the 1 yard line, and, wanted to leave John Beast with as little as time as possible. So, Shane, in that situation, if you really felt like you were playing somebody and your defense was just getting slopped over, and you were in that same situation, do you think you would have still just rolled the dice and trusted your defense because Kiv ended up getting stopped on the goal line after that? So do you think in that situation you would have just scored and just trusted your defense that they could get the job done?
That's a really good question, Trey. And here, I've been through it in the past, right? There has been a couple times in the past where, I'm down, I think it was like 4 or 5 on one of them, and then I was down 6 where a touchdown extra point, I win the game. So if I would have scored a touchdown on each drive, I would win. Well, I decided to lay down at like the 3 or 2 yard line, and guess what happened? I didn't score the next few plays. I don't remember if I had 2 or 3 plays, but it didn't matter. On each one, I didn't score. So from then on, I was like, hell no, I'm gonna score and rely on my defense. and it's worked 99% of the time. Maybe, like a game here and there out of 10, I lose. And then I'm like, well, that sucks. But most of the time I win, right? Because I rely on my defense. Now, in this year's game, so far with how OP offense is, I probably would have done the same thing. I probably would have laid down Trey and just been like, I trust myself to score inside. I probably wouldn't have laid down at the one. I honestly, because like I don't know why, but I've had a harder time scoring from the one than like the 5 or 10. But I do definitely understand why he did it on this year's game. I mean, some of the scores were looking like college basketball scores, Trey. So like I understand actually on doing that. And like I said, overall for most Madden games, I'm scoring now and relying on my defense and my user. This Madden game, I mean, people are scoring like college basketball. It's gotten a little bit better since the last patch on defense, but I mean, it's still not amazing, and the people can still do certain stem route glitches. And like I think we've talked before. I don't know if it was on the last podcast or just me and you talking in general. But there's still times where like I'll jump a route, hit triangle, and it won't respond. And yeah, maybe sometimes I'm a little out of the area, but like other people have told me the same thing. People that have made the online part where they were one game away from making the live event. But for to answer your question, yeah, this year, bro, I would have laid down too.
Yeah, and another point that kind of illustrates that point is, you go to the next tournament and John Beach was playing Abram, I believe it was, and Abram, I think, was actually winning the game, and it was like a 4th and 24 or something in his own end of the end zone. Freaking drops back and throws a touchdown. And it's like when you have something like that happens, I can't imagine that that's a good look. That you got people going for it on 4th and 24 when they're winning in like the third quarter or whatever it was. But you got that going on. And something else that I noticed, Shane, I don't know if you got a chance to notice this at all, but I'm seeing a whole lot of they would have the QR code. They would say, "Hey, scan this code for if you want to be involved in the next tournament." Okay, 1 or 2 times is cool. It's probably protocol. I did notice, however, and it was kind of interesting that they kind of just kept refraining, that ad like, "Hey, you want to compete, scan the code, figure out how you can compete." So do you think that maybe internally there's something going on to where EA Sports is kind of looking to kind of change the guard, so to speak, with like the pros and trying to get new blood in, or is that kind of, just protocol for them?
I know that like I do have a family member who actually runs a radio station. He was pretty famous in California. He's my uncle. He's on Cool 107.1 up here. But I know that they have to do certain amounts of advertisement to get it in. I don't know how much they are told per EA or what they agree on, or maybe they took it themselves to do it even more than they should have. I don't know if they want the changing of the guard necessarily. I think it's still a money grab, Trey. Like here's where I'm at on that. Like, do you remember when they were pushing Kiv to be like the next goat, and they were talking about how like he was gonna be the goat?
Yeah, my bad. And then they did the same thing with Skimbo and then Henry. And also not to cut you off, but like what's going on with Henry? Is he just kind of content now, just kind of living his best life, or what's going on with that?
So you're good about no. We're having a good conversation here. No, I think that they don't want. I mean, I think they're fine with having repeat champions so they can brag them up. But I think it hurts them more than they thought, right? I think that like when they were pushing like Kiv and Skimbo, it was kind of cute, right? They wanted people to play. Well, when Henry starts to win every game or every tournament, I mean, a lot of people don't want to even waste their time. But nah, my whole thing again, though, what I really believe it's all about money, Trey. Like, I think the more you push it out there, right, they want more people to sign up. More people signing up, what's it mean? It means they buy packs in the marketplace. They make more money, and so on. And with Henry, at least from what I've heard, is they just think that the game is very, very offensive oriented, and a play here or there has been the difference. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I know people say that he's good at both areas, and I think he's not really too kind about this game, too in love with this game. I think he probably relies on his defense just like his high-powered offense, right? From what I've heard, he's good at offense and good at defense, obviously, where some people are very, very good at offense and not good at defense, and they've made moves this year with this game because you can get away with some poor reads. And I like on a lesser degree, on a lower level, if you want to say that, I've played people in the tournament where they throw it in double coverage, and in years past, it's a pick, but the guy catches it for the touchdown, or he throws it up like in triple coverage, like that one play, and my computer runs over, slaps it in the air, and he runs and catches it. Like, I think it's easier to get away this year with double coverage passes, Trey. As weird as that sounds, I think they get away with it more, and I think that's what's costing a guy like Henry, who's good on defense and good on offense, right? So that's where I think it is. I think it's just a crapshoot right now.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you, and that was, what's the word, eloquently put by you. And so, yeah, I think, and as we go, and you look at this new crop of players, right? You have Fancy coming out, and John B's looked pretty good. It's kind of wide open for kind of the next young person to kind of come over and take it. So, when you look at this new group of players, do you think that someone's going to emerge and kind of take over the Henry role, or do you think it's just going to be like a parody type of thing where it's just going to be different people for a while?
That's a really good question. I'm at the right now. I think it's so early, right? Again, it's so early. It's two tournaments in. This game has been really, really weird. Like, very, very, very offensive oriented. You can get away with a couple bad reads every game. So if it stays like this all year and it stays like this in the future, yeah, I think there will be more just like random people winning it, which might be good for EA overall. If they enter defense and make it where like defense is decent or pretty good, I think Henry wins again, and I think it's going to be on Henry when he doesn't win anymore if they make the game a little bit more defensive oriented. But for the general public and for everyone, I think it's better if random people win it and no repeat champions. It makes people think they have a chance, right? So that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, and you brought up defense, so obviously the last few years it's been all about the knockout ability, and that's been kind of non-existent. I haven't got a chance to play regs where everything is kind of baseline. People have their abilities set. So is it more of a thing to where in MUT the cards just aren't that good enough to where they can have knockouts everywhere, or is it like knockouts are just they kind of patch knockouts to where they're not as effective as last year anymore.
You know, I there isn't knockouts really right now. I know that Sherman has the X Factor knockout, but it was really extremely hard to get. I don't think the players are good enough yet. So we'll see, in a month or two or whatever, if the knockouts are OP. I really hope that the knockouts aren't like that. I don't really want me being throwing a curl route, and because you have a knockout and you're behind him, he just drops it automatically. I don't know. I want to go back where abilities weren't so OP in the zone and the man coverage and the route running mattered, right? Like they didn't need knockouts in Madden 13, Madden 16 because they played off their rating. So for me, I mean, I hope knockouts aren't super OP, but right now, Trey, they're not good enough in Mutt to have those abilities. Besides Sherman having the X factor, and it was super hard to light up.
Yeah, no doubt. And speaking of Ultimate Team, obviously we're getting some legend in the game, and coming up pretty soon we're going to be getting Most Feared, which is pretty anticipated. EA has the Most Feared program with the Halloween, the Scary Tall, which I know Shane's not a fan of. When they would do the thing where every player is 6 feet tall because he's old and he doesn't know how to have fun, so he hates it. But in saying that, Shane, like, has there been any cards that have kind of changed the game so far for you, or has it been kind of dry so far in Ultimate Team over the last few weeks?
Chris Johnson was him. Like, I mean, Chris Johnson, or not Chris Johnson. Yes, I think it's, man, bro, my brain is hurting me right now. Let me go to my roster just to clarify. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Yeah, it's Chris Johnson. Um, he broke the game, bro, with the spin move. Well, since the patch came out, he's kind of dead. He's dead. Like he's not that good now. He's good. I mean, he's good, but he was like so OP that if you could spin the correct way, like the double tap and all that, you were killing people. I loved using him. Right now, I'm not really impressed with anyone. Like I know there's the 89 guy that I got, Mark Gastani or whatever his name is. He just wasn't the Jets guy, the all pro Jets guy. He just hasn't really impressed me. I'm not really impressed with anyone right now. There's good cards. There's some very elite cards, Trey. But to answer your question, like for me personally, and yes, I don't have the best team. I have a good team. I have a really good team. I don't see any cards like breaking the game like Chris Johnson was doing at the start of the year.
Yeah, no doubt, and I'm pretty sure within a few months we're going to be getting some new cards that are going to take effect in the game. So make sure you watch out for that. So so far, like, where are you at this year with the whole spending money and competing? Like, do you think, because last year I felt like it was way too hard to get a decent team by just playing the game, which is a gripe that I've had for quite some time. But do you think it's possible to, kind of just play the game and be able to grind and build your team that way, or is it kind of you got to break out the credit card a little bit to kind of get the players now play?
Bro, I'll be honest. I've played the game a very good amount. You have to break the credit card out still. I mean, if you don't spend money, please show me how you have an elite team right now. I just don't buy it. I believe everybody spent a decent amount of money that has it, and then yes, Trey, like I believe you could spend like 2 to 400 right now and then just build up your players, right? And win championships and then have coins that way. And yes, there are some good people that have like an 83 overall team that have like 9 million, I was told, waiting sitting there for the next tournament, but I still think they had to spend money. I think you still have to spend a decent amount of money. So even if it's 50-50 right now, right? It's you still have to break the credit card out to answer your question, Trey.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I'm really hoping that they'll change it. They have house rules. I'm not sure if house rules was still a thing, but they came out with that whole mud draft thing last year, and everybody loved it because if you were able to play the game and get good enough, you got a free card from that. And now what do? They completely take away mud draft, so you can't even build your coins up from playing mud draft. And that was the thing I used to do in the past. And I just feel like I've been playing Ultimate Team for quite some time, and over the last 2 years, it's really been kind of to the point where like I'm spending more money. Where in the past, yeah, I would spend money here and there, but I was able to just be good enough at the game to where I was able to build my team that way. So, Shane, I don't want to I don't want to put you in harm's way with this question, but when it comes to, the whole coin selling kind of operation, I don't want you to like snitch on anyone or nothing like that, but is that still a thing with people that you know? And do you think that EA is kind of, turned the other way when it comes to coins nowadays, or do you think they're still pretty strict on that aspect of it?
Yeah, no snitching over here, but from what I've heard, EA has cracked down on coin sellers. Like, I mean, I heard it's really, really hard to sell coins now. Like, they have it like capped on a certain players. You can't, sell it for more like how you used to. Like, you know how if you got an 85 overall card right now, and I could post it for 900,000, and you'd buy it from me, or buy the card for 900,000, right? But it's really only a 100K card. I don't think you can do that anymore. I think it's only like double the amount or something. But I've heard that they've cracked down really hard. I know there's a couple people that are doing it, but I think it's harder for them too, Trey. I think EA is actually just swooped in and are like, "Yo, you're gonna spend money. You're gonna play my game a lot. That's how you're gonna do it."
Yeah, no doubt. So they're cracking everything down, and yeah, coin selling. I think it's still probably gonna be a thing, but that used to be like people were making like incomes off of that, and now it's just kind of dead, which is pretty crazy. But it kind of is what it is. But I kind of want to give a shout out to your crew, shout out to UMC, and really I think I should ask you more questions about them since that's kind of the brand that you've created and that you've kind of invested over this amount of time. So kind of where are you at with the boys so far? Is everyone kind of in good spirits? They're grinding the game, they're doing tournaments. Kind of what's the overlook on UMC so far at this point?
I think that we're really just playing the game, and like we had a few people one game away, Trey, from our crew UMC making on top 32. So that would have been really impressive. Couple of breaks here and there, and we would have been seeing them on TV possibly. So I think it's just a very kind of difficult game overall. Whereas like it's just like I don't know. It's just very, very offense oriented. Got some guys who still want defense to matter, right? And I do hear something that is changing. The community is kind of changing on it, and I don't know if it's because like a guy like Fancy won it or whatnot. But a lot of people are not liking the switch stick anymore and think that it should not be allowed in tournaments. Where for me, it's like it's whatever. Like I mean, you have to adapt, right? You have to adapt and figure out what you're doing and what how to beat it, right? Like I don't like it that people want the switch stick taken away because somebody's so elite at it. Like then you should take away dollar, right? Or you should take away something like that. So for me, I'm cool with switch stick being left in. Hopefully UMC will one of us will make a live event this year. But to go back really quick on the whole thing about how you're talking about they took out Mutt Draft. We talked about this on the last podcast, and I'm gonna stand 10 toes down, like they say now. Uh, I believe they don't have Mutt Draft out and the updated rosters because they don't want player people being able to play the top cards for free. They want you to go buy cards. They don't want you to be able to play the cards for free and all that. They want you to spend money to get the top cards. So that's where my belief Mutt Draft is not available, Trey. So that's where I'm at on that.
Yeah, no, I hear what you mean, but it is a little bit different though when you're using the top cards in Mud Draft. For one, there's no abilities in Mud Draft, so and when you take away the abilities from some of the cards, you're kind of it's like it's like abilities like just dominate the game so much to where it's like night and day from how they play from mud draft, and then you put abilities on them and you play them in ultimate team, and it just seems kind of different to me. If abilities weren't in the game, I would probably agree with that point. Not saying that I completely disagree with it, but like so that I'm still kind of confused on why they just took it out in the first place, but hopefully they have some mode to where you're able to get in, build your team, and not have to either spend 24 hours a day playing it or break out the credit card. So in saying that, we were talking a little bit about Gauntlet so far. So is that something that you've gotten into the last few days, or have you got a chance at that yet? Yeah.
Say that again. It cut out for me. The Gauntlet. Have I played the Gauntlet?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you got a chance to play it and what your take on that was so far. Yeah.
So perfect. I mean, perfect advertisement spot for me right now, Trey. Tomorrow at some time, I will be doing the Gauntlet. It is 12. I believe it's 12 games total. If you win 10 games, you win the top prize, which is a very good player and coins. If you lose 2 games, you're done. Last week I went 1-0, forgot about it because I had plans and didn't finish it. You can only play it on Saturday and Sunday though, so it is like weekend league. It really is, Trey. It's like a weekend league, even though they don't call it. So the gauntlet's gonna be hell. I'm sure I'm gonna be playing top pros tomorrow. So that would be a lot of fun. Hopefully, people, if you want to tune in, definitely tune in. See how I can do against the Kivs of the world because that's where it's at, Trey. The gauntlet is top pros playing it, and it's gonna be fun to see. We'll see where I'm at.
Yeah, if you're saying it's like weekendly, then I'm definitely excited to get on because I could literally go on like a 10-minute rant about how much I love the Weekend League. I was miserable playing it, but now when I look back, like nostalgia's sake, or like Madden 21, Madden 20, like Weekend League them days, it was awesome. So yeah, I'm hoping that that comes back into full effect.
Not to interrupt you or anything, Trey, but I want to add on to how you enter the gauntlet. So how you enter into the gauntlet, unfortunately, you have to win 16 games in MUT Champion, or you have to spend 50,000 in coins to get the entry fee. So that's how you get into it, Trey.
All right, you heard it here first, and also like even going back to Weekend League, it was to get entered into Weekend League was literally nothing. All you had to do to get qualified into Weekend League back in the day was you just had to play a season, and then you were entered into Weekend League that way. But now it's like a paywall. You have to get by. So we're getting ripped off at an all-time cliff, Shane. I'm not sure if you know this, but we're getting pretty ripped off right now in
100.
in 2024. All right, so we're approaching kind of the end of this podcast, and Shane has kind of brought up an interesting topic, and it's a topic that we actually discussed, I believe, last year around this time, and it was a pretty good topic, and excited to kind of revisit it, but probably I would say 26 years ago, I think, or 28 years ago, on a cold night in Las Vegas, the artist Tupac Shakur was murdered. A lot of developments have happened recently with, the whole Keefe D situation. I've been kind of keeping tabs on that, seeing how, that whole thing is going. But I want to ask you, Shane, like, kind of because you kind of have an interesting story to this one, and I think, for people that might want to listen that or new listeners didn't get a chance to hear the full story from last year, kind of give them a rundown and kind of what's been kind of going on now with that whole thing in 2024.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, 28 years ago, Tupac Shakur passed away in the Las Vegas hospital. It was pretty interesting. At first they said he had no chance, and then halfway through his stay there, they said he had a 50-50 chance, and then at the very end, He kept like passing away. They kept reviving him 3 times, and his mom finally said, "Pull the plug. He is not going to live like how we all know all that." I was one of the people when I was alive then that I believed that he lived. I believed in the whole like 7 year theory because it was a 7 year theory, right? It was 2003 he was going to come back. I would be all over the websites back then. Um, I'd be telling people, yeah, I think he's alive because he changed his name to Machiavelli. Long story short, I was young, impressionable. Obviously, he's dead, right? Well, so fast forward about shoot, how old am I now? About 10 years ago. I'll say 10 years ago without giving it away. But I do know somebody who I do know somebody who knew who the person was that shot Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas 28 years ago. It was obviously Orlando Anderson. Everybody pretty much knows it's Orlando Anderson, unless you believe in the conspiracy theory that the FBI did it, or Suge did it, or now there's another conspiracy that it was Big Andre who was in there. Look, it was Orlando Anderson. I'll just flat out say that and leave it at that. It was not Suge. Suge, like, why would you be in a car when you get shot at 13, 14 times? Like, doesn't even make sense. Like, sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself. Tupac Shakur fought a Crip, a known killer. They beat him up in the MGM Grand. What do known gang members do that are killers? They come back around, even if they liked your music, which everybody says Orlando Anderson liked Tupac's music. It was his favorite artist, but he wasn't going to be punked out by some rapper, right? So that happens about like, I don't know. I don't know exactly when it started, but like, I think it was like 6, 7 years ago. Keefe D, who was one of the people in the car, he was the driver. His nephew was Orlando Anderson, Baby Lane. He basically ratted out his nephew who was killed in 1998 in a shootout with some other people. He ratted him out in the sense of he was trying to get a plea deal so he didn't go to prison, right? Everybody else in that car was dead already, I believe. Maybe one guy was still living, but but two of them were dead, and the one he pointed the finger at, his nephew, was passed away, for many years. So he thought that he could say it whenever he wanted to, but I can't remember exactly what it's called, Trey, when a cop says, "Hey, we will give you this." Do you
I
know what it's
believe they.
called?
I think it's called a proffer agreement. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so they gave him that. They gave Keefe D that. He fully came out and was like, "Yo, we're in the car. They jumped my nephew. My nephew was pissed off. We were trying to find him. We went to Club 662. Club 662, they weren't there. There's a bunch of Bloods there, which was Southside Crips rivals, obviously, Bloods and Crips. They decided to leave there. They're about to be done. They're like, screw this. We'll just party and we'll get back in Los Angeles. Now, what happened was they pulled up. We're driving around and some girls are screaming out, Tupac, Tupac, right? They're screaming out his name. So they're like, there he is. They flipped it. The whole entourage is in the middle lane and they don't have it blocked on the right side. They pull up in the Cadillac. Orlando Anderson leans over from the back seat and opens fires about 13 to 14 times, I believe. Tupac Shakur was hit 4 times. Suge Knight was grazed by one in the head. and they pulled off and left, right? They get away, they go park it, and kind of messed up part is they said they watched Tupac Shakur get loaded up in the ambulance while they were hiding the evidence. Is this true? Is this just, bigged up on what it was? Who knows? But long story short, they're like, yo, well, this all happened. Well, then he goes all over on Vlad TV. Vlad TV gets a lot of people to talk, I'll say that. Interesting subjects, right? Great interviews, in my opinion. I know some people don't like him, some people like him. You don't have to blab if you don't want to, so it should be on the person who is kind of dry snitching or blabbing if you don't like him, right? Well, Keefe D goes on there. He's basically talking about how, you know, his his nephew got beat up. Same story that I just said. And then he would add bits and pieces. Tupac looked like a dancer, break dancing when my nephew was shooting at him. Orlando Anderson would have, knocked out Tupac in a one-on-one fight. Then I believe they asked him, well, why didn't they do a one-on-one fight? And then Keefe D kind of was like, come on, man, and changed the subject and went to about gunplay. So to me personally, I think he wasn't sure really if his nephew would win one-on-one, but excuse me, I have a cold, I think, coming on. But I think that he wasn't sure if his nephew would win one-on-one or if he was just talking crap and was just saying, yeah, I think he would knock him out. But, I mean, a known killer, you play around. Like, even Tupac, man, favorite rapper of all time. You play with fire, you eventually get burned. And he got burned that night. And so Keefe D basically kept blabbing. The FBI was building a case. And they went into his Vegas home with a warrant and got some stuff. Excuse me, one second. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know. I got a cough really bad. They got a warrant. Went to a thing. I believe they found some stuff on a laptop tray. They found some Tupac Shakur stuff. All that. Well, they arrested him. He's on trial now. Well, he ratted out Puffy even more. He said Puffy, in Vlad interviews about Puffy owed $1 million. He was supposed to give it to, I believe, Zip or whatever, and he never paid it off. So that's why he's basically being like, look, this is what P Diddy did or Puffy or whatever the hell you want to call the dude now, and that's where we're at right now. But Puffy is getting railed by everyone because stuff's coming out like Cassie talking about, he beat her, he raped her while they were dating. Other women are saying the same thing now. Got a Bill Cosby, part two coming on, but Puffy's also getting wrapped up in the whole Tupac Shakur Keefe D case because I do believe Puffy was working behind the scenes with those type of guys. We're already realizing here, I'll say this right now. Every East Coaster at the time, Trey, was saying that Tupac Shakur was a big mouth and he was paranoid and he was making up all the stories and he's a liar. They did get part of it right. Tupac did have a big mouth. He admitted it himself. But we're finding out over the years that he was right. Biggie and Puffy were cool with this, with Jimmy Henchman and those guys. And Stretch, one of his close friends that was there for the 1994 shooting, they believe set Tupac up now. So now what Tupac said 30 years ago is coming to light, and it looks like Stretch did set him up, and Puffy did know these guys, and King and I believe I'm forgetting his name right now. Oh, Haitian Jack, I believe he in the rape case. He was a Fed. He was an informant. So Tupac looks really, really validated 30 years later. But yeah, it is really interesting, Trey. I wish I wasn't having a coughing fit when I was trying to tell the story, but I'm really interested on seeing what happens. I think Keefe D is going to be screwed, and I think Puffy will be part of it too as well. I think Puffy's going to be screwed as well.
Yeah, no doubt. That was an awesome story you just told, and I kind of share the whole sentiment with you had about, and there's still people out there that feel passionately like, oh, it was the FBI, it was a conspiracy, this and that, and to that I would say, if you took the same exact scenario that happened to Tupac, right, same events, but you had a guy that was named Bob, and same exact events that happened that night, would you still be saying that it was a conspiracy? And I'll just rest my case on that. Really, the only thing that kind of bothers me about that whole thing is the fact that he didn't he didn't go out with a bulletproof vest. I think that's probably the one thing about this story that kind of bothers me after all these years is the fact that he gets involved with this whole hostile fight, goes out to a club, decides that he wasn't going to wear a bulletproof vest. That to me is the only thing that I kind of thought was weird about that. And I would recommend to watch the USA documentary. I think they have it on Netflix, but Unsolved, great series of coverage. They really go in depth with the whole thing there, and I think it is definitely worth a watch if you haven't watched it already.
You
And
know, Trey.
Trey,
To add on to that, you want to know something crazy? So supposedly he didn't wear the vest because it was too hot out, right? It was in Vegas. I was I read back in the day that he and Suge Knight were months away from having a bulletproof car. That they were in the making of
oh
a
shit.
bulletproof car. Yeah, they were making or talking about doing a bulletproof car. I don't know if they were in like paying somebody or whatnot, but they were in talks with making a bulletproof car. I think they believed it was like 2 3 months out. So it would have been a whole different, different situation. And even me, like I'm like, damn, bro. And you know what's even wilder? If Tupac Shakur was shot in Vegas now, it would have been all over the TV, right? Because there would have been cameras everywhere. There was way less cameras in Vegas in '96 and in 2024. Like how there's a video of like XXX getting shot, or you know, like video of the one Migos rapper getting shot. There would have been that, but like yeah, to sum it up, yeah. In the end, he was a 24-year-old kid. I mean, he is. That's young to me now. He got in a fight with a known killer. Like he probably should have been like, yeah, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go back to Los Angeles right now. But that's not how he thought, and he probably should have wore a bulletproof vest at the same time. And like Keefe D said, like supposedly Tupac was reaching in the back while he was dancing away from the bullets, which he was trying to make fun of him in a way, in my opinion. But like anybody would be dancing away from the bullets. You know what I mean? The hardest dude in the world would be dancing if I'm opening fire on you. And supposedly he was reaching in the back for his own gun per him. So who knows on that? But yeah, they were like a couple months out, Trey, from what I read in the past from having a bulletproof car.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. That's definitely some new information. And honestly, like, is that like a common thing now that you know of? Because I didn't even really know that bulletproof cars were a thing. So is that kind of like people like celebrities and all that? They actually have those now. Is that pretty common?
I'm looking it up right now, Trey. I feel like maybe yeah, there's top 10 armored vehicles. Mercedes S600, Pullman State, Volkswagen. There's a Maserati. Yeah, so they have it. Yeah, rappers do have there are rappers who have bulletproof cars. Yeah, so I want to see if that was close or if it was just hearsay back then. I believe they said he was just like couple months out. Maybe it's an updated version. Oh yeah, they were. Wait a minute. Let's see. Yeah, they did say that they're trying to do another BMW with bulletproof. I can't find it right now, so I'd have to find the link. Like I said, it was way back in the day, but like yeah. So to answer your question, they do have bulletproof vehicles now for celebrities and rappers.
All right, that is awesome. I'll definitely have to keep that in mind because you know, there's a lot of people out there that might want to put a hit out on me, so something that I might have to invest in. But you know, and you know, going through that, like I don't know how you feel, Shane, but you know, you have Snoop Dogg and how like when the whole thing was going on and Snoop got on an interview and you know, he said I don't have any problems with, you know, Biggie and all that. And like that always kind of just rubbed me the wrong way because it's like if you're my best friend and you go on an interview and you say that you don't have any problems with like my worst enemy or whatever, like to me that's almost like a red flag to where I don't even want to associate with you anymore. So like what's your whole takeaway on that scenario?
You know, again, they're both kids in my eyes, right? Especially where I am now. Back then, I would have been pissed off like Tupac. I would have probably got into it with Snoop Dogg, which they both got into a big argument right before his death, unfortunately, because the whole thing with Tupac was loyalty, right? And that's like kind of like how I am. It's about loyalty and like what you were saying. So when people try to paint Biggie Smalls as this innocent person when he really wasn't. Like to me, he wasn't. Was he as big mouth as Tupac? No. I feel like he was sneakier, right? I feel like he did things like on the down low. Like if anybody ever wants to hear about it, he really never dissed Tupac back when he was alive, right? But Tupac dies and he comes out with Long Kiss Goodnight. My team in the Marine Blue, aka for everyone who doesn't know, Southside Crips, rock Marine Blue. Okay. Um, so Laugh Now, Cry Later. That's a Tupac tattoo. Slugs Hit You, We Ain't Mad at You. One of Tupac's famous songs is I Ain't Mad at You. So like long story short, Biggie thought Tupac was in New York with Snoop Dogg. Biggie went on a radio and said, "Y'all gonna let Tupac and Biggie be in New York and not give them basically any problems?" Somebody went and shot up the trailer where Snoop Dogg and the Dog Pound were. Tupac Shakur was never in New York at that time. So for people to paint like Biggie was innocent right there, like you literally called up the radio station and tried to start something and then somebody listened to you and shot up the trailer, right? Tupac had Snoop's back there. Well, fast forward, I think things got a little too like you saw it on TV for people the 1995 Source Awards, right? The 95 Source Awards where Snoop was on getting his award. He said, "The East Coast don't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg." Well, y'all, y'all, we know where you be at or something like that. It's famous. So like you're like hell yeah. So he's part of it. Well, then all of a sudden he kind of flip flopped like I don't really have any problems with Biggie and Tupac and them got Biggie or I mean and Tupac and Snoop got into it, right, Trey? They got into it. They weren't talking to each other right before Tupac got shot up. Snoop did go to the hospital, but afterwards it all came out like where Snoop was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't have any problems." Like to me, that was soft. It really is soft. I mean, look, I'll be honest, Trey. If I'm friends with you and you're not friends with the other person, and I get shot up, and you're dissing them, and then like I diss them with you, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I don't got any problems with them. Like I'd feel some sort of way. Would do I think Snoop and Tupac would have been cool if they're at their age now, hell yeah, I think they'd been fine probably a year later, maybe even less than that. But like for that time being, yeah, it was a little bit like, damn, bro, you know what I mean? Like you're down dissing them, and now all of a sudden you're not down with me. All of a sudden, I would have felt some sort of way, and I think most people would have. Kind of like the whole Biggie release and Who Shot You. Excuse me. Even if it wasn't about Tupac at that time, right? Why would you release that song right after Tupac Shakur was shot 5 times in 1994 and lived? Why would you do that, bro? Like you're friends. You should get a hold of Tupac first and be like, yo, I have this song that I made a year before, if the story's true. Do you feel uncomfortable if I release it right now? And then if your friend's like, yeah, right now I feel uncomfortable, you should have the respect not to release it. But like I said, I think Biggie lived a little sneaky, bro.
Yeah, and the whole argument for Snoop is like, oh, he was trying to keep it peaceful. He was trying to, not really get involved with the whole thing. And I just feel like he could have done that. Like, if he got asked, he could have just, like, avoided the question. I just think he could have handled it better. And it's like, like everyone wants to say, oh, people in the 90s are a lot tougher than now. But, like, to me, what Snoop did back then is like, he's like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It's like, so it's like, are you gonna ride or are you trying to play peaceful? Like, which one is it? Like, that's the one thing about Tupac for me. People can say he's fake or whatever, but like, once he decided he was gonna go to death row, he jumped in with both feet. Like he wasn't like out there like faking it. But I think once he got with death row, he was like all into it, which is everyone else I think is kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Right,
So
and like another thing, like you said, like let's say you're cool with both of them, right? Let's say you're cool with both of them, and you're like, yo, I'm cool with Tupac, I'm cool with Biggie, I'm not part of this beef, I'm cool with both of y'all, I won't tell each other the secrets, but I'm cool with both of you. That's like Bone Thugs, right? Bone Thugs and Harmony was cool with Tupac. Bone Thugs and Harmony was cool with Biggie Smalls, and as far as I know, Tupac didn't have a problem with that, and neither did Biggie, because see, they were upfront about it. I was friends. I'm friends with you, and I'm friends with you. I'm not going to break it up, my friendship, over like you two fighting. I'd have more respect myself doing that, but yes, like some people are 2 feet in, some people are 1 foot out, 1 foot in. Tupac definitely was 2 feet in.
yes, sir. So to kind of bring this full circle, if hypothetically, if Tupac were to survive, I know there's still some people, and it's actually kind of funny how you kind of went in, you kind of bought into the whole theory about him being alive, and there's still people that think Elvis is still alive or that he gone, and I was actually one of the people back then, so it even went further to what you're saying. I remember being like, like 13 or 14 years old on YouTube and like learning about the whole 7 Day theory and Machiavelli, which come to find out that whole story about how Machiavelli was like a prophet and he ended up faking his death to fool his enemies, like that Nico Machiavelli didn't even say that, so that was just a lie from the get-go that someone made up. So, with all that being said, if he were alive today, do you think he would still be on top, or do you think he would kind of fade out to the background?
Is it, did he survive? He survived with his injuries, or was he survived and he didn't have the
Oh,
injuries?
well, yeah, no, that's a good point. So I guess, like, hypothetically speaking, if I guess like if that situation just didn't happen, like if he didn't get involved with Orlando Anderson, he was
Oh,
still alive today. So
okay,
he's still
that's a
alive
perfect.
and doing well.
Okay, that's a perfect question because if he would have lived, like his finger was shot off, he didn't have a lung. Um, I still think he would have went into acting and been fine. Like people live with one lung. I mean, and he would not had a finger. But like, let's say nothing happened, like you said. I don't think he'd be rapping right now. I think he'd be like a movie star. Like he was pretty good at movies, and he would have only gotten better. I think he would have been like, a Will Smith, right? And I think he'd been very like political, probably a political activist, but I think he had been into movies, and I think funny. I think a lot of people and the younger generation would see him as a movie star and not as a rapper, like people see Will Smith. And then the older generation would see him as a rapper and a movie actor.
Yeah, and and I think the one thing about, modern rappers and all that, and, I've been seeing Nas has actually been kind of posting some, songs here and there. He's mostly transitioned to like more business. Obviously, Eminem is still going to get a crazy reaction whenever he releases something, but, I've been checking out Nas and he's been putting out music and they're actually pulling some pretty decent views, so shout out to that. But, I think the one thing that I will give, kind of the modern day rappers is that I think they kind of recognize that the whole music industry is crooked now. So I think what a lot of them are doing is they're kind of getting their foot in the door with the whole rap industry, and then once they kind of get paid out from that, they kind of get out and branch off into different business ventures, which I think personally is pretty smart by them in like a business sense. But and it's funny too. This is kind of a funny story, but like when you were telling about the whole surgery, that kind of reminded me of like the whole DOC. And I was listening to this one guy I listened to on YouTube, and apparently when like DOC had that one, he was in a car accident and it kind of messed up his vocal thing, and I don't know if he tried to release an album even after his voice was messed up, but they kind of went into the whole album not knowing that his voice was messed up, and then they heard it and they just started laughing, and I just thought that whole story was pretty funny
That's
about that
wild,
one.
bro.
Wow, bro.
Yeah.
So,
So kind of like what's your whole takeaway on like on how like rap is today, and like do you think like the whole industry is like crooked and all that?
You know, like, obviously, I think my generation's rap music is better. But, like, I mean, I think everybody thinks that, right? Like, they think their music is better. I think my music is better. My parents think their music is better. I just think that's just how life is, right? It's a circle. Like I said, there was a couple artists that I really, really like from this generation. I mean, and I don't even know if he's from. I would consider him from this generation, but like Juice World was my favorite new rapper, right? I really liked his music, so it was unfortunate for him to overdose. But I think music artists are smarter nowadays in the sense of they control their own destiny, right? They could put it out differently. They don't have to rely on CDs and like people like that. You have a good chance of going independent as well or being found a certain way. But yeah, I think, look, I'll be honest, bro. Like I said, like I think the music industry, the movie industry, they're all shady. I think they all have secrets, just like the government. Just joking, FBI. We love you.
Yeah, no doubt. And so like because I know you were kind of on your way to become a musical artist at one point. So like do you buy in another conspiracy theory, like do you believe in the whole you sell your soul to the devil, and then from there you end up becoming rich and famous, and you get kind of controlled, and I think the whole Illuminati the whole Illuminati thing, do you think that has any credence to it?
I mean, look, I'll say this. You know my story. A lot of people that have listened know my story. There might be some new people that follow along all of a sudden and may not know it. But long story short, uh, I was signed to Phantom Music Records. I was on the radio, the first unsigned hype on our local radio stations. I was played in Copacabana, New York. I was played at weddings. I was pretty big. Like I was number one on SoundClick, which is basically like, I don't know how to describe it now, like the best like charts unsigned for people. So whatever it's now, SoundCloud, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. I was number one for 6+ months, and I had to remove the song when I signed to Phantom Music. Basically, Trey, I had to sign such a huge contract. I think it was like 35 pages that needed my freaking signature. But it was pretty wild just for those three songs, and like they wanted to get me. I think it was Universal Studio. They were gonna make a movie. I was gonna be on with 50 Cent and Puffy at the time for the movie soundtrack. Unfortunately, that movie got scrapped, dropped, and then they asked me if I wanted to ghostwrite for Puffy. I said hell no. And then a few months later, unfortunately, I was dropped from the label. Um, who knows what would have happened, right, Trey? Like I was this 19-year-old kid. What if I would have said yes to ghostwriting for Puffy, and like with all the stuff coming out about how Puffy, did some certain things to guys and girls and all that stuff. Maybe I would have signed my soul to the devil, ghostwriting for Puffy. Like I think basically I'll say this: powerful people in powerful positions control the masses. I do agree on that. Not on this wild like like everyone's an alien or whatever, or a salamander or a lizard or whatever the hell they call it, but yeah, rich people that are super powerful get away with things that you and I would never, ever, ever, ever get away with. Sometimes they don't even get a slap on the wrist. They get, oh, I didn't see it. I throw you some money, or I fondle that girl's butt cheeks, and then I'm like, yo, I'll give you 50,000 if you don't say anything, and they say, okay, right? I think stuff like that, yeah, like I think certain things are coming to light right now, like on Puffy, because people got comfortable once Keefe D opened it up to that. Just like Bill Cosby, one lady talked, and now all of a sudden, everybody else did it because they were comfortable. Like powerful people get away with stuff, Trey. So if that's selling your soul to the devil to become part of them, if that's the Illuminati where you want to believe in the Illuminati, so be it. I just believe powerful people and powerful places control the masses. That's where I'm at. Powerful people and powerful places control the masses.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that 100%. And, I think if it does exist, I don't think it's like this thing to where, they bring you in a dark room and, they have all this stuff going for you and it's a process. I think that if it does exist, it's a lot more subtle than that. There was this one story I read about, how when Eminem was first starting to become big, and this is kind of crazy that people would just drop off like bags of drugs at his room, and no one even knew like where they were coming from or who they were. So I think that also has a lot to do with it, with just the stress level and also probably the lifestyle it takes to become famous and all that.
Well, Trey, there's also there's another thing. Like, I don't know if I've told you this story. I'm probably sure I have. I don't think that I said it on here. If I have, it was, who knows, years ago. It just reminds me of that, like, you're never going to know the ultimate truth, right? You're never going to find out the ultimate truth. So I used to watch the Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack, the old Unsolved Mysteries. It creeped the hell out of me. Well, like a few years back, I started watching it with my oldest son on YouTube again, and they had updated versions, which was really cool. But kind of like with the whole Tupac conspiracy, right? Sometimes what you are told and what you see is a simple and most realistic answer. Not everything has to be a conspiracy. So, like, I'll just kind of sum it up. There's like five or six cases where what happened to this woman? Did she get grabbed by a serial killer? Did she get abducted by aliens? Right? And then now it's updated 20 years later. They found her car in the lake. She was drunk and accidentally rolled into the lake and couldn't get out. So it was not a serial killer. It was not an alien. The only one that stuck out to me, Trey, is this guy was by, I believe, Nevada. So kind of like Area 51, right? He has his big ass video camera and he's in the lights and he sees these two triangular objects in the sky moving at speed of light. Boom, 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 boom. He records it. He calls the radio station. The TV station, not the radio station. He calls the TV station, the local news. They say, bring it in. Bring it in on this day. He said that he was visited by two men in black at his home before he could bring it to the TV station and release it. One guy asked to use the bathroom while the other one was talking. They were both dressed in black, like Men in Black. One went to the bathroom. One was talking. They left. They disappeared. He went back to his room after they left, and the videotape was gone. The videotape was gone, right, Trey? Well, they were like, it was aliens, right? It was aliens that came and brainwashed him and took it. Well, what happened was it got updated. It was military, and it was airplanes that were super advanced that they didn't want people finding out about. So some people said the government's like 35 years ahead of us. So that was only the one that I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And, like myself, I'm also into the whole unsolved mysteries thing. That's probably the one thing that I'll say about, my generation is, I don't know if you got a chance to see kind of like the modern unsolved mysteries on Netflix, but to me, it's a lot better than the 80s. Because the ones in the 80s, I've tried watching that a few times and it just comes across as corny. Like to me, that whole show just didn't age well to me.
That
But
show scared the bejesus out of me though, growing up, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like, and his voice, I know definitely what you mean. It is a little bit cheesy now that I'm older. I just like it because they have updated it, right? They have updated a lot of them, and a lot of them just like, all these conspiracies, like all these like, it was like a serial killer, it was aliens, it was all this, and all all of it was just basic, like, you know what I mean, basic stuff. He fell into the water, she fell into the water, they killed themselves. It wasn't anything like big.
yeah, and, the one thing I'll say on that, obviously, you have this whole conspiracy theories, and I think when you have a situation, and I want to say all the times because there's certainly some cases, there's an anomaly here and there where, foul play and stuff like that could be involved. But I think for the most part, I think and it's going to sound harsh, but, when families go through something tragic to them, they don't want to. It's easier for them to say, oh, this person did this, oh, there was foul play involved. It's easier for them to accept it versus, them having to constantly ask themselves, if I would have done this, would that whole situation would have been differently? So I think that they just kind of use that as a coping mechanism to not have to, you know, ask themselves those type of questions. So I just think that's kind of the result on all that. But moving forward, Shane, if you could ask someone anything, anyone in the world, whether it be government, whatever, and they had to tell you the truth, what do you think? Who would you ask, and what would be the question? For me, it would be what is really going on at Area 51. Area 51 is a topic that I've been kind of interested for quite some time. So, what do you think it would be for you?
I'm not sure. That's a really good one because would I want to know the truth on certain things? Probably not, man. Probably not. Do I believe, like, well, would you ask them if they're watching you? Yeah, I believe they're watching us. Okay, I really do. I just think that there's nothing, like, I believe they have like audio detection, like where it like picks up and they're like, oh, there's Shane and Trey talking about Madden anyways, and you know what I mean? Nothing like is big enough. I did hear, Trey, about Area 51 is supposedly from a former military guy. I don't know if it's true or not, Trey. Like, that's where they use advanced military experiments.
I would probably lean more towards it's like advanced military subjects, but even when knowing it's like a place where they test advanced weapons and all that. But then like if that is the case, then that just opens up a whole can of worms. It's like, okay, so they have all this advanced technology. Where the hell is that coming from? Because if humans didn't invent it, and it's like so far advanced, then how the hell, how what I mean? It's like how are they that so advanced? Like because I don't think like a human is capable to create something that's like something to where like you and I would look at it and say, how the hell did that happen? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
it's pretty out there, man. Like certain things are pretty out there. And just like maybe I would ask, hey, do you really have the cure for cancer, and you don't want to give people the cure for cancer because you make so much money off of, donations and all that stuff? Maybe it'd be something like that for me. I'd be interested to hear if that's true or not.
Yeah, I go back and forth with that whole thing. I think for me the thing that I just keep coming back to is like I think if there was something like that, a cure for everything, I just think it'd be way too profitable for them to kind of keep it under wraps. Like I just don't see like why they would have something that would make them so much money and for them to just keep it under wraps or
Okay, here I'll,
whatever.
I'll spin
But
it on you. You ready? Because here's
yeah.
what some conspiracy theorists said, and I'm like, yeah, I could see it. Okay, let's say you take this pill, right, Trey, and you can live to 130 years old. I'm just making it up because this is basically the same thing. You can live to 130 years old, but there's only, let's just say, a million of it available right now. But it costs $5 million. You don't have the 5 million, right? So are you gonna start murdering people, start robbing, panicking, causing panic and confusion? Like if it came out, bro, this is where I'm at. Not that I believe it, but if they came out right now and they said, "Yep, we have the cure for cancer. We have only 500 pills available right now. It'll take another 10 years to make 500 more, but it's going to cost whoever buys them $1 million each." Do you believe that there'd be panic and confusion and violence?
I would answer that, and I think that kind of already happens. I think that already happens to some degree. Like, and I know it's a TV show, but like Breaking Bad, the whole premise of that show was, you have a middle-aged school teacher that only makes 30,000 a year, and he has cancer. So in order to, well, he wasn't trying to get better. Mainly, he knew his time was running out, so he was trying to make money for his family. So that's a little bit different. But I think that kind of happens to some degree to where people there is a cure for it, but people will go through great lengths already to try to get it. But I understand what you're saying on that for sure.
Because another thing, I watch a history channel, right? I watch a science channel. I'm very interested on like the psychological aspect of human beings and all that. I don't really believe in conspiracy theories. I don't really believe in psychics, like, and that kind of stuff. I do believe in placebo, which can help you anyways, right? If I believe holding the cross, or if I believe holding some crystals, I do believe it'll help you mentally for sure. It brings me back to this famous magician. I think his name was Randall Brown or something like that. Don't quote me, Randy Brown. It doesn't matter. He was a famous magician. He would like basically do stuff and people would believe it. Well, he felt very, very guilty. And he was watching psychics and like tarot readers take money from people, and he didn't like it, right? Some people were losing their houses, they were losing their savings because, they lose a kid and they go to a psychic who says, "You pay me, I'll help find it." They lose money that way. Basically, he put $1 million down to Anyone who wanted to come and show their real powers. Not one person could do it. Not one person could do it. And it was 3 out of 10 times they were right. And he said basically that this shows that 30% of the time it's just chance, right? 3 out of 10 times you're going to make the correct guess. Now, conspiracy theory people are saying, well, why would they want to admit or show that they're real psychics or tarot readers? Because then the government would take them. So it's just very interesting. All that kind of stuff is kind of wrapped into one. Do they are they hiding, pills for cancer and they just don't want us to know about it, or do they not? But to sum it up, on the Science Channel, and now this is about 10, 12 years old, it was a very, very good breakdown, Trey, of the human body, the human mind, and if you don't smoke and you don't drink and you exercise correctly and you do all this, the maximum life they believe is 125. They don't believe people can go past 125 really at all. I don't know what the longest person alive is. Maybe it shattered it by now. But I would want proof, like, how some people in third world countries, they're 185 years old. I don't believe that. But maybe somebody hit 127. But I do believe that there is a max in life, right? I just think that we're here for a short period of time, and you have to eventually die. And I know it's scary and it's very nerve wracking to realize that you and I are just blips on the radar in this game of life, right? And unless they come up with like a new body for me with a new mind and a new heart and all that, I'm eventually going to die. So I just think that people are looking for any ways to make themselves feel better, and stir things up, like, hey, the government is withholding, these pills for cancer and they don't want us to live long, or, they know how to make us live longer. They just don't want to. So here, I'm going to ask the viewers, and Trey, I'm going to ask you, do you believe the maximum life is 125 to 130? Or do you believe it'll come a time period in life, maybe when we're gone, that the maximum life expectancy is 200 or 175?
Yeah, I would say for me, that kind of seems kind of on point, 125, and barring you do everything right, and it's crazy too because you could be doing everything right and then all of a sudden you get hit by a bus and then that's it. So it's like, like trying to do everything. I mean, obviously you want to have, the basic morals and all that. But kind of like you said, we're here for a short amount of time, and I really wish, and it could still be real. Like who knows? Like no one knows. But if recreation was a thing, I'd be really content with that because like I want to live forever personally. Like like the thought of not existing, that bothers me. But like if it was like you get 10 lives and at least one life you end up being someone wealthy and rich. So one life out of 10 you hit it big and live the good life. So and then maybe one life you just live the bottom for a long time. But yeah, that's kind of how I am on that, Shane. That
So I just researched it, Trey, and yes, I know exactly what you mean, bro. It is a little creepy to think about it. So I looked it up, and there hasn't been anyone verified and documented that's lived over the age of 122. The woman, the oldest person ever documented was a woman from France who lived to 122 years old that died in 97. Then the oldest man ever was 116 years old that died in 2013. So it still seems like that science show is still, pretty much on par, like, you know, with 125 being the maximum life expectancy. And honestly, Trey, to me, like here, I don't know if you notice this. I mean, you're not old enough, but when I was growing up, right, the doctor seeing would be on a like a commercial and be like, top three things to make you live a long life. Number one would be eating right. Number two would be exercising. Number three would be genetics. And like 10 years ago, I found one that said now the number one thing is genetics. Number two is exercise, and then number three is eating right. So basically, expectancy of life is just off your genetics. Some people are like blessed, some people are not. I just think it's a roll of the dice, man. I'm here today. I could be gone tomorrow. I don't want to be gone. Like you said, that's a creepy subject. You know what I mean? To think about, but I just think that you have a maximum in life, right? And people are like, well, people that believe that you can eventually live to like 200 years old or 175 years old because they use the whole, well, life expectancy in the 1900 was like 50 and now it's 77. Excuse me. Well, so in 113 years, we only went up 27 years. So, I mean, I just don't think that unless they come out with some like digital heart chip and digital lungs and digital brain, like, I just, I'll just say this, Trey, and like it sucks. And like you said, it gives you like, makes you feel anxious, like if you really think about it, because it's true, it does. I won't be alive when they figure out how to live to 200 if they ever do, okay? I'd be utterly shocked. There's too much stuff that needs to be fixed, right? So if my heart goes out, okay, you have a heart chip. But what about my lungs? What about my kidney? What about my brain? What about my eyeballs? And like some old people that I talk to, they don't want to die, but their body hurts so bad that it's not fun for them at the same time, Trey. So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And I guess on that note, I hope that, when you guys are listening to us on, and, probably, like within the last, 30 minutes of this podcast, make sure to put on the tinfoil hat because we definitely went down the conspiracy theorist rabbit hole, but it was a fun time for sure talking about that. And also, the whole Madden and NFL season that, is in full swing. Definitely going to be excited for next week when the Seahawks play the Patriots and all that. And I know, Shane, you actually are planning on streaming, so I'll let you get into that, kind of what your whole plan is with that. And I guess for me, I really have nothing else to say. We appreciate you guys for coming by and supporting the podcast. The next time we come to you guys will not be next Friday, but the Friday after that. So be on the lookout for that. And also, since 9/11 happened a few days ago, rest in peace to all the victims and all the people that were affected by that tragedy and all that. And yeah, I'll throw it back over to Shane to close us out for this edition of the West Coast Podcast. For
Appreciate it, Trey. Yeah, that's crazy. We didn't even hit on 9/11, man. I was a junior in high school. I always remember my dad. My dad was a badass. I mean, like tough ass dude, and he came running down the steps, waking me up at I think it was like 6:30 in the morning, saying we're under attack. I was old enough. I got goosebumps saying this story. So I was old enough to excuse me. I was old enough to hear just how you remember when you were little and you played the secret game or whatever, the whisper game. You'd whisper in the ear, they'd whisper to the next person, and usually the story was wrong. They thought like I was in school. They made me go to school, and we're sitting there, and they thought 7, 8 planes were hijacked. They thought this was going on. It was a wild time, and I remember for a week straight, all every time I turned on the TV, a week straight, it was the airplanes going into the building. So yeah, I definitely remember that time. I know there's conspiracy theory on that. I'm not going to hit on that at all. I'll move past that. But yeah, I'll forever remember it was my Pearl Harbor. I mean, how old are you, Trey? 27?
Yeah, I was 27, so I would have been like 3 years old when that whole thing happened. So yeah,
Okay, so for you, hopefully, man, you don't have your 9/11 or Pearl Harbor where you're old enough to be like, you know what I mean? Like, I know you're alive, but like you're three, right? So I guess you're part of it. So I mean, yeah, you could say you're part of 9/11. But for like, yeah, for me that I was old enough, it was a weird time, and like even a week after, there was like no, everybody was so nice to each other. They were really nice to each other, man. And anyways, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big conspiracy theory person, so I'll just move on that. Like you said, I feel bad for everybody that dealt with it, for all the victims. I mean, it was a horrible attack, and I'll leave it at that. No political bullcrap. Just leave it at that. Moving on, man. Trey got me fired up thinking about all that stuff that I've read. Anyways, um, yeah, so tomorrow, I'm not entirely sure, probably the afternoon, I will be streaming the Gauntlet, which is like the weekend league souped up on steroids because it's basically like anyone who enters is usually a goon, pro players all over. You guys can come hang out with me, watch me rage. Hopefully, we win a few games. I was 1-0 last weekend, but hopefully we can get to the 10 wins so I can get like 300,000 in coins and like the top player. Seahawks, Patriots play Trey's team versus mine. We will be back September 27th at 10:30 p.m. Pacific time. Like Trey said, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate hanging out with you guys. I love Trey's questions. Like I love Trey as my co-host, and I'm his co-host. However you want to break it down. I mean, we go on some cool stories. I mean, we just go off. Like that's why it has changed from the West Coast Batten podcast to just the West Coast podcast, so we can cover everything. So if you guys want to hear us talk about a subject or anything like that, let us know. So let us know, you guys, in the comment section or my email, Shane got you 11. Here, I'm going to break it down again so then we can use this as a clip. If any of you guys want us to go over a subject or a conversation, let me or Trey know in the comment section or send it to my email at shanegotyu11@gmail.com and we will go over it on the next podcast. So for Trey, I'm Shane. This was the West Coast Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks.